Hi and welcome to this blog post, and it's all about backing up and restoring in the communication app Proloquo2Go. My name is Amanda Hartman. I'm a speech pathologist and I'm one of the consultants on the Spectronics team here. And I'm also a Proloquo2Go trainer, so I kind of know a little bit about this stuff. And it is something that comes up in a lot of training that I'm doing where people aren't really in the habit of backing up and restoring. And what we're talking about is when you get Proloquo2Go, you're going to put a lot of time into it, into personalizing it and customizing it, something we've talked about a lot. Putting your own photos in, your own words, your own messages. You want to be able to back that up so that if anything should ever happen to the app on your iPad or to the iPad itself, that you can back up to the saved version so you retain all of the information that you've put into your communication set for the person you're working with. Now, this blog post is focused on looking at Proloquo2Go version 3.0 onwards. So if you have that version of Proloquo2Go updated onto your device, which I'd encourage you to do, then this is what we'll be looking at today. So, as I said, it's really important that we back up and restore, and we're going to have three separate videos showing the ways that we back up and restore. But before we get into those three ways, and here are the three ways which we should mention, is so let's have a bit of a chat about those. The first one is Dropbox. So if you're not familiar with Dropbox, Dropbox is an in the cloud storage facility that you can use. So you can send things via your internet Wi-Fi connection straight up into the cloud, into a saving place called Dropbox. Now, if you want to use this way with Proloquo2Go, you need to have already downloaded the Dropbox app onto your iPad or your iPhone or whatever, and you have to have registered and created a free account with a username and password. So you'll need to have that on there for this way to work, to back up. So basically we're going to send our backup file straight up to Dropbox. So this is a pretty easy way. The second way to back up is using iTunes file sharing. This is where you physically get the white cord and plug it into the iPad and into your computer, and then iTunes will open up and it'll allow you to have a look at the files that are on the iPad, so you can transfer things off the iPad and transfer things back onto the iPad should you need to do that either way. And the third way we're going to look at is the Wi-Fi, and this is where if you've got an iPad and a computer and they're on the same Wi-Fi network, they can create a tricky kind of connection between each other where we can transfer stuff wirelessly from computer to device and backwards and forwards. We can do that to transfer those backup files on and off the devices. Okay, so some of the things, and a lot of this will become more clear once we close out of Keynote here and into Proloquo2Go as we're looking at it. Just note that our backup files are date and time stamped, and this is a handy way to sort of remember and look at what is your most recent backup file. Now, when we're starting to talk a backup file, it actually, so you create your user. So I'm going to show you my Amanda core user, which is my core word vocabulary that I've been developing and editing and using quite a lot in my work. And the backup file has packaged up all of my customizations within the vocabulary, all the buttons and folders that I've created, but it also sticks together all those options that I've set up in my options menus as well. So it remembers what voice I've chosen, it remembers how many columns I wanted to use, it remembers the colors that I've chosen, it remembers if I needed this particular access method. So that backup file kind of holds all that information, and because of that it can actually sometimes be quite a big file size. So when you have that backup file that's everything encapsulated all together, it has the file extension of .p2gbk, Proloquo2Go backup. It's the backup file. Just like you have a .pdf on the end of a PDF file or a doc for a Word document, this is the file extension, and you need to make sure that if you're transferring and moving things around or renaming, that you don't delete that file extension there. So we'll see that when we do it later. And along those lines, when you are transferring and playing around with the backup files, make sure you obviously save them into a place that's easy to find, but also rename them perhaps with a clearer sort of, you know, name and date, so it's easy for you to find. Yeah, I said that. That's okay. The next thing is share. Once you have that backup file all saved up, and what you've done is you've transferred it off your iPad. There's no point leaving it just on your iPad, because if something happens to that, you've lost all of your work anyway. So you need to send it off and put it onto your computer or up into Dropbox. And once you've done that, Proloquo2Go file, whilst it can't be opened or viewed on any computer or anything else, it can actually be shared with other people. So if you've done a really great page that you've done a lot of customization, then I encourage you could put it on a memory stick and share it with one of your friends or other parents or colleagues, perhaps to inspire them with some ideas of vocabulary ideas and activities that they could put on Proloquo2Go for them. The last thing is that all of the backup files are created under a user. So and we'll have a look at this in more detail as we open it up, and it'll probably again make more sense. But remember, when you're loading in a new page set, you're importing it, bringing it back, restoring it onto the iPad, it will save over top of whatever's there. It's just, so it's important that you might want to create a new user as you're restoring or loading in a new page set. As I said, that will make more sense once we go into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to close out now, and we'll go into Proloquo2Go. But before I do that, when I hold down my finger and go into jiggle mode, and this is jiggle mode, which means I can move and rearrange my apps on my screen. As you can see, next to Proloquo2Go, it has a grey circle with a black cross on it. If I push that, that's actually a delete button, which means it's deleting the Proloquo2Go off my iPad altogether. Now, of course, I can download Proloquo2Go again off the App Store for no extra charge because I've already owned and purchased it. That's fine. However, what we can't guarantee is that the saves and the customizations you've done will be saved as well. So if one of your students accidentally deletes the app off the iPad altogether, you may well lose stuff if you haven't saved it off. So have I mentioned enough? You just need to back up. Just do it. Now, watch these videos. You may have to do it a few times over. Watch the video a few times over. Refer to the tutorials on the AssistedWare website, and once you've done it a few times, it will become a lot easier. Anyway, of course, in this instance, going back to deleting the app off, well, I want to say cancel, of course, first, and I'm going to click my home button to go out of the edit jiggle mode, and I'm going to actually go into my settings because I do have one quick trick. Hopefully you already know about it. I'm going to my blue general tab there. So I've got all my different tabs. I click the general tab on the left-hand pane there, and I scroll down to restrictions. This is a password protected area where you can turn things on and off to customize your iPad. So there's right down here, there's a line that says deleting apps. So I just simply turn that off, and that turns off the ability for anybody to be able to delete an app, be it on purpose or accidentally. So nobody can delete apps anymore. That's password protected, so the students shouldn't be able to get into there. So we can go back out now. Now when I hold down my finger and go to edit mode, that delete button, they're jiggling, I can move them around, but I can no longer delete apps. So there's your first strategy that you need to make sure you're doing to have that restrictions on so that students can't delete the apps, because it has happened to me. Students can accidentally delete apps off iPads, and you will lose stuff if you haven't backed up. So let's go into Proloquo2Go now, and here I am in my Amanda page set. I'm going to write a sentence for you. Let's see.
teddy bears.
Okay, so here's my sentence, I like teddy bears. Now, I've done a lot of customization to this. I've added vocabulary. I've got my colors set up the way that I like them. And so what I need to do is I need to take a backup of this user at the moment. And I can see in my options menu, my user, I'm in my Amanda Core user. Okay, so that's my username. All right, so you'll have your own username. So what I do to do the backup is because I'm going to show you something really fast and easy first so that you're starting to get the general idea of backing up. So we click on the cog down the bottom. This is our options menu. We can see we're in our options menu. Which part of the options menu folder we're in is listed up on the top. So it's up there, we can see. I scroll down to the bottom where I'm looking at general options and I click on backup. And you can see these are all the options I have here. So what I want to do is I want to back up right now. I don't want to lose my, and I've put the I like teddy bears sentence up there because it's going to come right back to this spot in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back up the Amanda Core now. Now, when it does that, all the backup files take up a fair amount of space on your iPad. So because I've got lots of backup files of all the different clients and people I work with, it's just asking me whether I want to make extra space for you know, whether I want to delete some of the older backup files first. I'm going to say no. That's only simply because I like to manage the deleting of my backup files myself. So I've just said no, and that's going to take a few minutes now. That's backing up our Proloquo2Go page set. Okay, it's lovely. Okay, so that's good. I've saved that. That's only saved onto my iPad. It's not anywhere else. It's just saved into the internal memory of this iPad. But this is a likely scenario. You've got a student and you've accidentally forgotten to turn your options and your edit button off. And so before you know, the next time you come to look at the device, you've had a whole lot of buttons disappear off the page. Maybe the student has tried adding some buttons for themselves. They're having a nice time there. Adding some nice buttons, having some fun. Maybe they've gone into the options menu and they've somehow found their way into colours and they've made everything pink. And so the next time you come to use Proloquo2Go, that doesn't look like the way that we want it to. That has been made changes that we don't want to save, that we don't want to keep. So what I do is I simply go back down into my options menu. I have to back out of where I was. Now I'm at my top level. Here's my options menu, my options folder. I'm here. I go back down to my backup file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore. I'm going to restore from a backup file that's saved on my iPad. And I can see, here we go, on Wednesday the 30th of October at 1400 hours and 26 minutes. This here was the backup file that we just did 2 minutes ago. So if I click on that, what this is going to do is it's going to reopen up that I like Teddy backup file that we created just before. So it's double checking with me. Do you want to open up this backup file and open it up over top of the active user? Because if you do that, you're going to lose what's on your screen, which is fine in this instance because we had changes made to our page set that we didn't want because we'd forgotten to turn the pencil and the cog off. So let's restore, and it will take a few minutes because it's a big backup file and it likes to think about it. So talk amongst yourselves. And here we go. All right, so now we're right back to where we were. We lost all those silly changes that the student did. And of course, you're going to want to know to protect your stuff from the kids having to play with the edit and the options. You're going to want to know where to turn those buttons off. And if you don't know how to do that, then please email me. I'm sure hopefully you might know how to do that already. We didn't have time to talk about it today. All right, so all I did then is I had a backup file saved onto my iPad and I can restore it back to a previous version if things that get lost or get changed. All right, so let's have a look at what else we have in our backup menu. I can back up all the users at once. In the instance of what I just did then, I just backed up the current user, which is what I usually do. And then I use that restore button. But let's go down and have a look because it's not enough to just back up the backup file to your iPad, you have to save it off the iPad. So if something happens to your iPad or the app on the iPad, you've got it in an external location, just like you do on your computer. You would save it to an external hard drive. Okay, so we need to do the same thing. So that, of course, is going to be an export function. Okay, so we're going to export the backup off. And then to bring, in the instance where you need to bring a backup file back on, then you will import it back onto the iPad or onto whatever device it's required. So you could import it and restore it back onto grandma's iPad so that you could have your vocabulary there. You know, he might have an individual page set, and we can import it and restore it on the classroom iPad so that he has access to his specific vocabulary when he's at school. So those are some of the options there. And so you see when you export on Dropbox, when you click on one of the files, the ways that you can export it is directly to Dropbox or to iTunes. So we're going to have a look at that in a second. I'll cancel it. And same with importing. You've got the option when you import it back in, you can import directly from Dropbox or using the ones that have come in from file sharing on iTunes. And then we have this way here, this connect to a computer. That's the third way that we're going to look at today. What also is important to note in here is that we may want to delete backups. Okay, and again, that just gives you the option to get rid of older backup files that are no longer relevant. Okay, so I can delete previous backup files that are on there to save up space on my iPad, and I should do that routinely so that I have, so that I keep the space free on my iPad. Okay, so let's have a go at backing up and restoring.
Dropbox.
Okay, so let's use Dropbox to back up and then restore. Now, when you do it for the first time, so again, you do it, at the moment, I'm in my typing view there to do that, but I'll just go back to the grid so it looks more familiar to you. I'm going to click on the cogs here, and again, you might open up and you'll be in your options menu, so you have to make sure you go back into your backup section of your menu, and you're going to export a backup. Now, if you're using Dropbox, remember that you have to have already had the Dropbox app installed on your iPad and to have logged in, signed up and registered and whatever, signed in for your with your username and password. And if you haven't done it before, you can see basically we need to give permission for the two apps to talk to each other. By default, it will be turned off here. So what we do is when we turn it on, we now go into Dropbox, and what it's going to do is it's creating a connection between Dropbox and Proloquo2Go. What it's doing is it's creating a folder for Dropbox so that Proloquo2Go has got a place that it can send the backup files to. And so that's asking, do you allow it to send a folder up into an apps folder on your Dropbox account? And of course I'll say allow. It authorized it, it took me straight back to Proloquo2Go. So now I have my Dropbox talking to each other. So what I do is I select the backup file that I want to send to Dropbox, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click export to Dropbox, and then depending on your internet speed and the size of your file, that's going to start, you can see it is here, we're waiting at the moment, it's going to start sending that backup file directly up to Dropbox. And then once it's in Dropbox, well, we can download it onto any device that also has Dropbox and Proloquo2Go on it. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll do here's one I prepared earlier, because as you can see, we're still waiting, and because of the size of the information in my core word vocabulary, it's going to take a little bit of time, so 8.2%. It's going to take a little bit of while for it to upload it via the internet up into Dropbox. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to say cancel. And I'm going to go out of Proloquo2Go and go into Dropbox. And just to show you that here you've got all your Dropbox folders there, there's a folder that's been created called apps. And when you click on it, you can see Proloquo2Go has created its very own folder within it. And when I click on it, you can see that there are lots and lots of different backup files in there that I have sent up to save my core word vocabulary or other ones. But this looks interesting. I'm interested in this one. There's something called a secret message. I wonder what that secret message says. I wonder. There's Sam's page set. So you can see, anyway, that's interesting. Why don't we see what that secret message says? So I'll go back into Proloquo2Go. Now, if I just put that secret message directly over top of this page, then I would lose what I have in front of me. So my trick and tip for this, as I back out, is I will create a new user. So if I want to restore a new page set into a spot and I don't want to lose where I'm currently at, I will go and I will add a new user. So let's make a new user called secret message. And so, so I'm adding a new user in my user settings, and I can create it with default. The vocab, I might just create it with a blank vocabulary. So I've got default and blank vocabulary. It doesn't really matter what the vocab is because I'm going to restore that backup file from Dropbox over top of it anyway. So it's not going to matter. So let's say we've got a brand new blank page ready for us to import and restore a new page on top of it. Doesn't say anything at the moment, but let's see if we can get Dropbox to work. So I've gone back into my options again and I'm in my backup, and this time what I'm going to do is I want to import a backup. So Dropbox, when we did it before, we exported it up into the cloud so that it was off the iPad. Now we want to bring it back on. We want to bring the backup file and the vocabulary back on. So I go into import, and I can see that if I'm using Dropbox, I actually have to, it tells me, go into Dropbox to import the backups from your Dropbox folder. Okay, right. So that means I have to close Proloquo2Go. I think I've got it now. And of course I've got it. I go into here and I have a look and I find when you click on a file, see I've got all these files down the left-hand pane, when you click on it for the first time, it will start downloading. You can see the blue bar going across. Okay, but we're going to click on secret message and it's going to download for us. Okay, depending on the size of the file, what it's doing is what it's actually doing right now is it's taking that backup file, and you can see the .p2gbk file extension on the end of it. It's taking that backup file that's currently sitting up in your Dropbox folder in the clouds, and it's downloading it onto your iPad. Okay, so it's putting it back onto your iPad. So we'll give that a moment to go through. Okay, so that's downloaded now, and you do get that funny message. It says unable to view the file. Well, duh, we know why, because this is a Proloquo2Go backup file. The only place that it can be possibly viewed is in Proloquo2Go. So to make it open up in Proloquo2Go, you can see along the top there you have the name of the file along that top blue bar, and I'm looking at the top right corner. There's three kind of icons, boxes with arrows, a star, and then a downward facing arrow. And if I click on that one there, that actually gives me options for what apps I can open this file in. I don't know why it tells me I can open it in Evernote, because I know if I did that I wouldn't be able to view it anyway. So I'm going to click on open in Proloquo2Go, and there you saw it. What it did is it's now trying to send it and load it into Proloquo2Go. So we get asked, do you want to just save that backup file, add it to your list of backups and restore it maybe later? That's the later button. Or do you want to restore it right now? And I'm happy to restore it right now because I've already created a new user to stick it on top of. So I can click restore now, and it's double checking with me. And that's because if you had an active, just say I tried to restore this secret message over top of my Amanda core that I had open before, it would wipe out the Amanda core and just put the secret message on it. So you know that's why it's making just doubly sure that we are restoring, loading this page set into exactly the place that we want it to do. So I say restore, I am sure about that. I restore the secret message, it's putting it in there. It takes just a couple of minutes for them to talk to each other and load up. And here it is.
Boo! Bonza! It worked.
It worked. Fantastic. So we sent our Proloquo2Go backup file up into Dropbox, and then we were able to download another backup file down and open and restore it. So that's a really, really fast way. If you have access to Dropbox, I would recommend it as being a fast, efficient way, remembering that the time that it takes to upload and download to Dropbox will depend on how much vocab and maybe photos, how big your backup file is. So there may be some patience required at some point. Okay, so that's that about Dropbox. Okay, well, thank you for watching this short video on backing up and restoring. I do have a couple of messages for you.
Do it.
Do it. Time.
Today. Do it today.
Go on, do it today. Back up today before you forget how to do it. Watch this video again so that you remind yourself how to do it. You can watch it whenever you need to. So my name's Amanda Hartman. Here's my email address. Please do email me if you have any further questions. And please make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and follow our blog. And if you are interested in more webinars and videos around Proloquo2Go, there's plenty of online content on our Spectronics online subscription service. So you might want to check that out. Thanks for stopping by today. Bye.